Hi friends, welcome back to Star Laboratory. If you are not a subscriber, first of all please subscribe the channel and don't forget to press the bell button. Okay, today we are going to discuss about the rapid method of ESR test in hematology. Usually in the laboratories we are performing the traditional Westergren method for ESR. We have already discussed the principal method and everything on traditional method of ESR. As we all know, the traditional Westergren method will take up to 1 hour to get readings. But interestingly, in this rapid method, it will take only 7 minutes to get readings. According to many researchers, it was proved that this ESR time can be reduced for only 7 minutes. So within 7 minutes, we can perform the ESR and we can get accurate reading. Okay, now let's see what is the principle behind this rapid method of ESR. So here the anticoagulated blood is diluted in 1:4 ratio with trisodium citrate anticoagulant, and it allowed to stand at 45-degree angle in a rack for about specific time, about 7 minutes. The red cells will settle down at the bottom of the tube till they form a packed column in a given interval of time. So this process of sedimentation is called rapid method of ESR. Okay, now let's go for the method. Here the sample should be collected into a trisodium citrate anticoagulated tube. Here the amount of volume is critical. So the volume of the anticoagulant and the volume of blood should be 1:4 ratio. That means 1 volume of anticoagulant and 4 volume of blood. Here the EDTA sample is not recommended for the ESR test. But if the venous blood is collected into an EDTA tube, practically we can perform the sample. That means we can dilute the sample with 1:4 ratio of trisodium citrate again, then we can do the ESR. Then the requirements. Here we need trisodium citrate anticoagulant, Westergren tube, rubber bulb or pipette filler, a stopwatch and a Westergren rack. Normally in the hospital setup, these blood samples can be collected into the anticoagulated blood tube and they can be sent to the laboratory along with the request form. When we are receiving the sample, we should check the samples for the clot and we should check all the patient's details whether they are tallying or not. If the patient details are not tallying or if the sample is containing a clot, we should reject the sample. Okay, now let's process a trisodium citrate anticoagulated sample. Before to process the sample, we should mix the sample well 8 to 10 times by inverting 180 degrees. Here the blood sample is already collected in 1:4 ratio of trisodium citrate anticoagulant and blood. So the blood sample is already diluted. So now let's mount this blood sample into the Westergren tube. Then carefully we should fix the tube on Westergren rack. Here the diluted blood sample should be filled into the Westergren tube up to 0 mark, and it should be placed into the room temperature without disturbing, and it should be free from the vibration and it should be away from the direct sunlight. Okay, now we have mounted the 2 samples which are collected into the trisodium citrate anticoagulated tube directly. So after the mounting, we should keep the rack at 45-degree angle slant position. At the same time, we should switch on the stopwatch. Then we should get the readings exactly after 7 minutes. Now let's see how to perform the EDTA sample. Here the Westergren tube is 300 mm in long and it is calibrated up to 200 mm. So now I am adding 50 mm of trisodium citrate. Then 200 millimeters of blood. Then we have to mix it well. After that, we have to mount the pipette carefully on the Westergren rack. So after the mounting, we should keep the rack at the angle of 45 degree. Then without delaying, we should switch on the stopwatch. Then after exactly 7 minutes, we should get the readings. Next thing is the mechanism. The ESR test is a non-specific test which measures the ability of sedimentations of erythrocytes in its own plasma. Normal RBCs settle down slowly as they do not form the rule of formation. Instead, they generally repel each other due to the negative charge. But if the blood is containing the rule of formation, they can stack of many RBCs that become heavier and sediment faster. For example, in inflammatory conditions, the fibrinogen, other clotting proteins and alpha globulins are positively charged, so they will stimulate to form the rule of formation. So it will cause for the increasing of ESR. Here are some examples for increasing of ESR: carcinoma, chronic infection, rheumatoid arthritis, tissue destruction, nephritis and other kidney diseases, pregnancy. In the other hand, if the viscosity of the blood is high or due to some abnormal shapes of RBCs, the red blood cells would be slow to fall to the base, thus lowering the ESR. Okay, now